B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Shiur Torah. Baruch Hashem, always good to be here. Our shiur, Baruch Hashem, is getting some good traction online. We got some good people asking good questions, doing tshuva. Baruch Hashem keeps sending emails. These emails are like a lifeline for me, and I know anybody in the kiruv business that's truly doing kiruv. When you get one of these people that tells you, hey, listen, I picked up a CD, I started doing tshuva, I watched the shiur, I started doing tshuva, I saw something, I started learning, did tshuva, I wanted converting, and so on and so forth. People send you these messages and they tell you that the shiurim that you do change their life. It's a lifeline. It's mamash a lifeline. Aside from the fact that you do this only for the good of people, you do this only for Chasdei Hashem, you do it, Hashem gives you so much, you want to do something in return, at least whatever we can do. But aside from that, there's nothing else you get back. What do you get back? You get to see people, mamash, become happy in front of your eyes. Sometimes they're far away, they're in Africa, or they're in Australia, or they're in somewhere else. Sometimes they're in front of you. But when you see people follow what Hashem said, you see change. And it works every time. But you don't always get to see it. So Hashem, whenever you need something, He says, He sent you another email, another text, another message, none of this, none of that. So Baruch Hashem, they keep coming in. The Chag, right now, we lit another candle today, Baruch Hashem. We have a lot of things to learn about this Chag, but today I'm going to leave it up to you as far as questions. I'm not going to talk very much aside from your questions, but start off with something very simple. All of the Chagim, all of the mitzvot that we have in Judaism, all of the mitzvot that we have in the Torah, all of them, the spiritual growth, the aspect of tshuva, is not built into them. Is not built into them. Meaning, you do tefillin because you have to. You don't do tefillin because tefillin is going to lead you to tshuva. You keep Shabbat because you have to. Hashem said so. Keep Shabbat. You don't do Shabbat because Shabbat is going to make you nothing. Shabbat, you have to keep Shabbat. There's no additional spirituality or spiritual growth added to the mitzvot, with the exception of one mitzvah, and that's Hanukkah. Hanukkah is different than all of the other mitzvot. All of the other mitzvot that we have in the Torah, you should know it's 620. 620 mitzvot, not 613, 620. Reason why? You have 613 from Deoraita, from Hashem, and 7 Derabanan. And for all of those 7 mitzvot of the rabbis, most people think it's 613 from the rabbis, 7 from God. It's the opposite. 613 from God, 7 from the rabbis. And if you don't like the rabbis, don't celebrate Hanukkah. Why? Because that's one of the 7 mitzvot. Now, where do we have a hint about the 620? In Musaf on Shabbat, it says, Keter yitenu lecha. Keter, the crown. Who's going to give? Hashem is going to give, the angels are going to give him a crown. Keter Gimatria, 620. So, they're going to give you a crown. What's the crown? 620 mitzvot. So now, you have amazing mitzvot, but the mitzvah of tshuva that we have written in the Torah, Bipicha ulivavcha la'asoto, in your mouth, in your heart to do, the Ramban says that's mitzvah of tshuva. And this mitzvah is built into Hanukkah. How is it built into Hanukkah? Because Hanukkah tells you that every day you have to increase the Kodesh. Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel argue. Do you light 8 candles the first day, 7 candles the second day, 6 candles the third day, and so on and so forth? Bet Hillel says, no, we don't decrease in Kodesh, we increase in Kodesh. We increase in holiness. Once you put on kisui rosh of mitpachat, you're not allowed to take it off. Meaning, if, let's say, for example, a woman put kisui rosh, scarf, not wig. She puts scarf, and bar minan, something happened to her husband. He died, he left, whatever, something happened. She's no longer married. She's not allowed to take off the kisurosh. Not allowed to take off the kisurosh. If she's not married though, how are they going to know? How are they going to know she's not married? Married woman puts the scarf on. Married woman puts the hat on. How are they going to know she's not married? Shatchan's going to know. Shatchan's going to know. He's going to introduce her to somebody else. Is going to know. Don't worry, Hashem runs the world. Why? You're not allowed to decrease in Kodesh. Not allowed to decrease. So Hanukkah tells us that anytime you take on another mitzvah, you don't just, let me try this thing out and see for the week. I'm going to try going to nets this week, and we'll see what happens. Or let me do this. A lot of people like to do this, mistake by the way, where they like to make Shabbat come in earlier. Say, let me start Shabbat an hour early for the next few weeks. Let's see what happens. I'm going to try it out. This is a mistake. And the reason why is because a lot of people do it without saying bli neder. Once you do something on a regular basis, you have to keep doing it. You can't start Shabbat early or keep it an extra hour late and then stop. Because it becomes a neder. It becomes something that you've already done. So Hanukkah tells us you have to get yourself used to increasing in Kodesh. You can't stay the same. Every day do something more. Every day do something more. Yesterday you read 1 line, today read 1.5 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines. Always continue to increase what you're doing because that's in essence how your tshuva is going to work. If you're doing real tshuva, you have to consistently get used to increasing. As soon as you get to a point where you're not increasing anymore, you start going down. A Jew can't stay the same. A Jew is either going up or he's going down, Balminan. So if you remember, okay, Hanukkah, we increase the candles, that means I have to increase also. Every day 1 more candle, every day 1 more candle, every day 1 more pasuk, every day 1 more line, every day 1 more page, every day 1 more something. Every day something. Try. You don't necessarily succeed every day, but you try every single day. And that's one of the things that's built in to the spiritual aspect of Hanukkah, is trying to give us instructions for the rest of the year. Now, the reason why I mention this is because tshuva, we all know we need to do it. We all know we need to do it. Some people need to become modest. Some people need to keep Shabbat. Some people need to keep kosher. Some people need to keep their eyes. Some people to keep this, keep that. Everyone has to do something. So today I wanted to ask you guys, what do you need to keep? Not necessarily you personally, because I don't want you to be embarrassed. But what do you think is the most difficult thing to keep? Your perspective of what's the most difficult thing is very different than the guy next to you. And the woman next to you. Some women, for them, modesty, piece of cake. They love being modest. But for them, keeping Shabbat is like kaparat avonot. Some women, modesty, Shabbat, piece of cake. Shlom bayit, impossible. Why? She's already used to cursing out her husband. Used to. She likes it's like a good thing. It's almost like she compliments Baruch haba. She says the opposite to her husband. She likes cursing her husband out, miskina. But I'm telling you, I know a few. If you look at them, tzadikot. If you look at them from far away, you can don't look too much. You look from far away, tzadikot. You hear about them, tzadikot. You peek in a little bit into the house, hear what happens between the wife and the husband. Bar minan, you think it's Sodom and Gomorrah. You have no idea who's the guy, who's the woman, who's Amalek, who's Paro. You have no idea. Shem and Hashem, they don't stop cursing each other out. Tzadikim, beard, this, that, everything is perfect. But don't stop cursing each other out. Why? That's their tikkun. So you tell a guy, listen, you should stop, do this, you should tell the woman, stop, do this. It's very, very difficult for them. To them, it's most difficult. So you tell me, what's most difficult for you, and then you can ask any other questions you want. Go. Who's first? Go.
So we know that it says in the Torah that there is a Beis Hamikdash.
Okay.
So how does it prove to the Arabs that they know that all the Jews think that the Torah is amazing?
Well, the Arabs technically do believe that the Torah is amazing. They do believe that the Torah is real. The problem is that the Arabs are being used by Hashem as a whip to hit the Jews for not listening to Hashem. Hashem created the entire world what's below heaven and what's above heaven. He created everything. He created everything that you see, everything you don't see. Everything that is moving, everything that's not moving. And Hashem, Baruch haba. And Hashem created all of those things for who? For you. For the average Jew. For the average Jewish person to benefit from. Good. So the Chazal say, why would Hashem give some sheikh so much money to build a huge tower in the middle of Dubai, in the middle of the desert somewhere? Why? For what? What is it? How is that good for some Jew that's sitting over here in Hollywood? How? He says maybe a righteous Jew is going to be walking in the middle of the desert one day, and he's hot. Oh, there's a big tower. Let me use the shadow of the tower so it's less hot for me. Meaning he's going to give the sheikh $1 billion extra to build this tower. For what? One day out of 70 years that the Jew is alive, he's going to use it for a shadow just to, be less hot. That's it. It's worth it for Hashem to give the sheikh $1 billion for the Jew. Now this is not politically correct. This is not what people like to hear. But that's a reality. If you believe in a Torah, this is part of our Torah. Now, the Arabs believe in our Torah. When they say Musa, they say Moshe Rabbeinu, they say, peace be upon him. Avraham, Ibrahim, peace be upon him. They believe in them, no problem. Where do we go wrong? Where do we go wrong? We go wrong because they believe it's their duty to fulfill the other part of what Hashem said, which is that when the Jews don't do good, when the Jews don't follow what Hashem says, it's their job to punish us. That's what they believe. You hear some of their lecturers. They have actually a couple of people that are very, very well spoken, even though there's 8,000 versions of the Quran, even though the Quran is full of mistakes, even though there is not much that you could even debate here. There's mistakes in it that anyone that knows the Torah and the Quran could easily find them. It's not like it's a opinion. For example, they tell you that Jesus is related to Moshe Rabbeinu. That his mother was Moshe Rabbeinu's sister. This ridiculous things like this. It says in the Quran that his mother, Miriam, was Moshe Rabbeinu's sister, Miriam. His mother's name was Mary, but whatever. The point is they say Mary, Miriam, same thing, whatever. Alayno al-Arasi, that's what they say in Arabic. Alayno al-Arasi, whatever you want, no problem. Their brothers, their sisters, everything. Jesus, peace be upon him. Moshe Rabbeinu, peace be upon him. Everybody, peace be upon him, but let's kill all of them anyway. Chop their heads off because they don't want to be Muslim. So, you see it's mistakes. But some of these speakers they have, Hashem gave them a skill, gave them a speaking ability. You can see this guy speaking to 5, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people, all listening to what he says. And it sounds like he's an educated guy, which he is, just educated the wrong way. Point is, he says exactly what I'm telling you. That, yes, we believe the Torah is real, but you guys messed up and Hashem's punishing you. It's our job to punish you. That's really what they believe. Now, obviously they believe the Torah continued with their guy Muhammad and so on and so forth, but the point being is that whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. The part that they are right about, which is accidental, is the fact that Hashem is using them as a tool for us. Sometimes to reward us, sometimes to punish us. The same way that He's using the rest of the world. Sometimes to reward us, sometimes to punish us. When someone goes in front of the Bet Din to convert, the Bet Din asks them, do you believe in the Torah? Yes. Okay, do you believe in the 13 principles of faith? Rambam wrote 13 things, 13 principles that every Jew must believe. If you don't believe one of them, you can't be Jewish. So for example, one of them is Tchiyat HaMetim, resurrection of the dead. That one day Mashiach is going to come, approximately 40 years later. Some people say less, some people, well, point is 40 years later, after the Mashiach comes, it's going to be resurrection of the dead, meaning all the dead people that were righteous are going to wake up. Hi, how are you? How are you doing? Rabbeinu, Yaakov Avinu, everybody's here. back. If you have a problem believing it, you have a problem believing that a dead person can come back to life, you have a problem. Bet Din is not going to approve you to be a Jew. If you're already a Jew, you're kofar. You have no share of the world to come. It's not like, oh no, I believe this, but not this. No. If you don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, you don't believe the Mashiach is going to come any day, you don't believe Hashem is the only one, you don't believe there is no image for Hashem, you don't believe that Moshe Rabbeinu is the prophet of all prophets, you don't believe that there's a reward and punishment, you're kufir. You have no share of the world to come. Finished. It's not like, oh, look, you should keep Shabbat, he's a nice guy. No, you're kufir gamur. And if you want to be a Jew, you can't be a Jew. Why? You don't believe in it all. You believe in something else. You create a new religion. So, the Arabs, that's their deen. That's, unfortunately for them, that's their problem, is that they took the Torah and they twisted it. They created something new. And the Rambam says you're not allowed to create a new religion, which is the reason why Goyim, one of the main reasons why the Goyim are not allowed to keep Shabbat. If you want to keep Shabbat, you have to be a Jew. Next question. Go ahead.
So I was reading something in the Torah and I got a little confused.
I'm always confused, so go ahead.
It was talking about the obligation for Shema to say it twice a day.
Ken.
And it gives, Rashi says that saying the Shema during Mincha, you have to use it doesn't fulfill the obligation, but that it does count towards the Amidah of saying passage from the Torah.
Ken.
And it appears that Rabbeinu Tam disagrees with Rashi. And
Grandson, yeah.
Backs up.
They disagree constantly.
Okay.
They disagree constantly. That's why many people do tefillin twice a day. One is Rashi, one is Rabbeinu Tam. Rashi is the one that's accepted. Rabbeinu Tam is you should do because it's good anyway, but you don't say bracha. When you do Rashi, when you do Rabbeinu Tam, you don't say bracha on the tefillin. But as far as Shema Yisrael, you're supposed to do Shema Yisrael before a specific time and after a specific time. You can't just do whenever you feel like it, and for it to count as the Shema Yisrael. So, for example, right now it's right around a little bit before 9 a.m. in the morning where we live, right a little before 9 a.m., I think 8:52, 8:53. You're supposed to do Shema Yisrael before that. So that's to get out of the chovah, get out of the obligation of saying the Shema Yisrael in the morning. But if you read Shema Yisrael, you overslept, or something happened, and you only said Shema Yisrael at 9:10, or at 11 o'clock, or at 12, or something like that. I have one student sleeps till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know how he lives, but apparently he thinks it's a good idea. Anyways, Zot Hashem will do tshuva. Now, if such a thing happens, the Shema Yisrael is still valid as far as it's a mitzvah you did, but it's not the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael. What mitzvah is it? It's a mitzvah of limud Torah. Why? Because the entire Shema Yisrael is paragraphs from the Torah. Every time you say one letter from the Torah, it's a mitzvah. So you say average sentence has somewhere around 15, 16 letters. Each word has 3 letters. You have 15, 16 letters. You made a bunch of mitzvot. It doesn't count towards the Shema Yisrael obligation of that. That you can't do. You missed it. You're never going to have the opportunity to do it again. Same thing at night. After the time of Mincha is over, you have Arvit. Arvit, you have to do Shema Yisrael. But Arvit, you should know, Gemara Maseret Brachot says technically Arvit you should do before midnight. But technically you're allowed to do it until the morning. Technically you have to do it until the morning. If you're reading Maseret Brachot, also there's a very big machloket between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, whether you're supposed to do Shema Yisrael sitting down or standing up. When you read Torah standing or sitting? Standing. As a matter of fact, until the generation of Rabban Gamliel, they studied Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu to Rabban Gamliel. They learned Torah standing up all the time. They never sit down. You get Sefer Torah, you read standing up all the time. Gemara, standing up, never sit down. Why? Because the Torah. The generation of Rabban Gamliel, they always said, listen, we're getting weak. Yeshiva. From there we got the word yeshiva, sitting down. Sitting down. But until that point, for many, many years, we only sat up. We stood up. Now, Bet Shammai says, we should stand up when you read Torah. Shema Yisrael is Torah. Bet Hillel says, no, we could sit down. It gets to such a point where the machloket gets heated between the two of them, They say anyone that listens to Bet Shammai is mekulal mishamayim. He's cursed from heaven if he stands up dafka because Bet Shammai said it. If you're standing up saying Shema Yisrael, no problem. If you're standing up just because you feel like standing up, no problem. Let's say, Chazan always stands up, he's standing up, we say Shema Yisrael, no problem. If you just feel like standing up, maybe in the morning, for example, sometimes it's early in the morning, I'm tired and I want to have kavanah, I stand up. Why? If I sit down, I know I'm going to be half asleep. Half asleep, Shem Elachem, what kind of prayer I'm going to have? It's going to return it to me, like one of the checks. Return unfunded. Return check. Take back your prayers. I don't need your prayers, half asleep. So I stand up to wake myself up sometimes. So if you know it's going to help you wake up, okay, stand up. But if you're standing up because Bet Shammai, Shem Elachem, no good. Why? Because he lost that machloket. He lost that one. When the Mashiach comes, B'ezrat Hashem, we're actually going to go back to standing up. But until then, no. Next question. See, you ask one question, you get 3 free.
So, Hanukkah says that, states that we're not supposed to do kiddush between 6 and 7. Or if it's like, they say like a DST time between 7 and 8. When
Well, it depends. The Jewish clock changes around the year.
Yes, that's what it is.
The Jewish clock changes around the year. You're supposed to do kiddush as soon as you come back from the Bet Knesset. Immediately when you come back from the Bet Knesset. As a matter of fact, it's an isur gamur. You're not allowed whatsoever to delay going home. Like, for example, a lot of people like to hang out after Bet Knesset on Shabbat. They go, Bet Knesset, it's nice, everybody comes. Usually that's the one day everybody comes. And people like to talk. They like to socialize, this, that, da-da-da. Maybe even have a shiur. It's a isur gamur. You have to run home. Run home, no delay whatsoever. Don't go anywhere. Don't stop anywhere. You have to go home, do kiddush for your family, and then you can do whatever you want. Eat with the family, then you can have shiur Torah, go this, go that, do whatever you want. But you're not allowed to delay. Not allowed. It's not. Gemara says it's not allowed. It's forbidden. So as far as specific times, you may be talking about during that window, perhaps something like that. But I'm not exactly sure what 6 to 7, because 6 to 7 can be 6 to 7 in the summer. But in the winter, it's not 6 to 7. It could be a completely different time.
In the winter, I think it's 6 to 7, but summertime, which they refer to as the DST, so on 7 to 8. And then
Not to
Easter,
do
I think
kiddush
it's
during that
Easter
time?
as well.
Not to do kiddush during that time?
Yeah, during that time, so 1 hour period. I'm like, wow.
I'm sure it's something Kabbalistic, perhaps, but I'm not really sure. As far as halacha, I don't know. Next question. Go.
So we know that we say Shema at night, but why do we have to say it like very quickly before we go to sleep? Why can we say it after we sleep?
Well, if you're sleeping, you can't do it because you're already sleeping.
But we know that it's during the night. Why can't we say it like at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
No, you can do it. You can do it at night. You can do Shema Yisrael at night, but if you're going to, you have to do it when you do Shema Yisrael. There's 2 obligations you have. You have the Shema Yisrael that you have to do in the morning and at night, and then you have the Shema Lemita. You have the Shema Yisrael, which is technically the 3rd Shema Yisrael that you're supposed to do before you go to sleep. Now, many people make the mistake of doing the Shema Yisrael before they go to sleep when they're already half asleep, or they're doing it laying down. So you should know you're not allowed to study Torah or pray laying down. Why? It's not kavod. It's not honor if you actually believe that Hashem is paying attention to this prayer, unlike the Greeks. The Greeks didn't believe that Hashem is paying attention to the prayer. So we learned from Hanukkah. The Greeks said, yeah, God created the world, and then he left. He went on vacation. So if you believe that God's paying attention to your prayer, that means that you're praying to Hashem while you're laying down. It's not so much kavod. So you should do Shema Yisrael usually 15 minutes, a half hour before you go to sleep when you're somewhat alert, not when you're like half dead. So it's not easy all the time because sometimes you get tired, out of the blue. But you should try at least on a regular basis. You should try to do Shema Yisrael before you go to sleep when you're somewhat alert and not when you're completely asleep. And definitely try to avoid doing it when you're laying down. In general, you should avoid reading Torah and learning and so on laying down. This may sound silly to you guys, but I had a guy that sent me a question recently, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. He says, I saw in one of your shiurim that you had a tough time when you first started doing tshuva, I used to fall asleep right away. I'd go to shiur, 5 minutes into the shiur, I fell asleep. 5 minutes, I'm not exaggerating. 5 minutes into the shiur, sleeping like a baby. Baby. At night, no shiur, I could stay awake for 3 days straight. At Wall Street, sometimes I would skip sleep. You have this exchange, this project, that project, this client, that client, different things. Shiur Torah, baby sleeping. 5 minutes. So I talk about it a lot, make fun of myself a little bit, but also it's to explain to people. It's not easy. It's a very normal problem. So he says, listen, I have a similar problem. As soon as I get home, I do this, I do this, and then finally when I'm learning, I fall asleep right away. So I learned from my Rav that you have to ask follow-up questions, get more details, because people tell you only half the story. So I say, okay, so what's your schedule? When do you study? What is it out? And then I find out when he started to finally, after asking the questions, what did he tell me? He goes, no, listen, as soon as I open the book, I'm immediately falling asleep. So I say, well, you're falling asleep, what, on your desk? You fall on the floor? How do you wake up? He goes, no, I wake up the next morning. Wow, I wake up the next morning on the chair. He goes, no, I'm laying down. Meaning he took the Chumash, he took the Gemara, he took whatever book, and he thinks he's sleeping on his bed like it's a Harry Potter book or a non-fiction book in bed next to... It's not how you learn Torah. You're not allowed to learn Torah that way. Aside from the fact that it's not good because you're going to fall asleep for obvious reasons, you're not allowed to learn Torah that way. Torah is for you to be learning with Kavod. It's not your science test in high school. It's Torah. So you have to sit down or stand up, and you have to be in a place that's mechubad. If you're going to learn, for example, if you're going to learn in a bedroom, make sure that all the sheets are clean, and there's no zera anywhere. Make sure you're clean yourself. If you have filth on you of any kind, you can't study Torah. If you were just intimate with your wife, you have to take a shower and then go to Torah. All of these things, I'm saying it because no one else does. No one else talks about this stuff. That's the reason why I'm saying it, and I'm not considering the fact that there's some people older, younger, and don't understand. We have to say whatever we have to say. Why? Who knows when I'm going to have a chance to tell you. And the reality is that you have to understand that a zera is considered the same thing as waste from the other side. So if someone thinks he's studying Torah, oh, look, Kavod Rav, I studied the Gemara last night. You should know that your Torah is considered To'avat Hashem, disgusting. Why? It's like you went to the president and you were full with poop. Tell me, hey, good, President, I have a present for you. Now, how would you feel? A guy comes to a president, he wants to give him a diamond. He sold his house, sold his building, sold his business. He gives the president a box. Here's a box. Box is smelling though. Smelly box. The president says, listen, you open the box. You open the box. He opens the box. $100 million diamond, but it's covered with, it's covered, poop. What does the president say? Death penalty. Death penalty. He goes, what do you mean? It's a $100 million diamond. I sold my business, sold my house, sold my car, sold my kids, sold the wife, sold the dog, sold the cat, sold everything. I sold my neighbor also. I sold everything just to give you this diamond. He says, it was better you didn't give me the diamond than give me something like this. It's better you didn't give me nothing at all. Sometimes our prayers are like this. Sometimes somebody shows up to prayer, they're like, they don't feel like doing it. They feel like talking on their phone. Don't pray. Better off you don't pray. Skip the prayer. It's better you don't pray. Now with limud Torah, even if you don't feel like it, do it anyway. Why? Mikom shelo lishma ba lishma. Place that you don't want, eventually you're going to want it. Limud Torah is something different. But you have to do it clean. You have to be physically clean in general. You have to be clean. So these are simple things that you would think are common sense, but unfortunately, we don't have common sense when it comes to Torah. And the reason why is because Yitzhara gets in the way of our common sense. Yitzhara is going to constantly tell you to do things exactly when you're not allowed to do them. So it's important to know these little simple things. Go, next.
So what happened in the case of Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar?
Hmm?
They were learning Torah
Ken.
with only their head out and the rest of the body underground.
Ken.
So what's the issue? I mean, isn't it still an issue of being clean?
No, why? They're perfect. They're perfectly clean. There's no. Clean is not referring to dirt. Clean or not clean is not referring to dirt. Clean means something smelly. Something, because bad smell is bad for the soul. Clean or not clean is referring to filth. Something that's disgusting. Sand is not disgusting. Sand is technically what you're made out of anyway. So when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son were in the cave for 13 years, because they didn't know how long they're going to be in the cave, they figured that because of the mitzvah of Shabbat, they wanted to make sure that one of the main things of Shabbat is to have oneg Shabbat, not just to keep Shabbat, sleep all day. Oneg Shabbat means give kavod to the Shabbat, celebrate the Shabbat, honor the Shabbat, and so on and so forth. And one of the main things that's very important for Shabbat is to look appropriately. You have to wear nice clothes. You should actually have special clothes for Shabbat. You should have special talit for Shabbat. You should have special suit for Shabbat. Special shoes for Shabbat. Whatever you can afford, you should do everything. It should be just for Shabbat. It should be one thing you only wear on Shabbat. The main thing is you should not wear what you wear the rest of the week on Shabbat. Even if it's a $30,000 suit. But you wear it during the week, don't wear it on Shabbat. It's better you wear the $200 suit on Shabbat, and it's only on Shabbat, than you wear it the whole week and also on special. You should try to do as many things, have as many things as possible, just for Shabbat. That gives the Shabbat kavod. So Rabbi Shimon and his son, they didn't know how long they're going to be in the cave. They didn't have time to pack. There's no airline. There's no airline. They couldn't. Priceline.com wasn't alive yet. There's no time. So they just ran away. No food, no drinks, no nothing. Just a couple of Sifrei Torah. Salamat, gone. And Hashem made a miracle, made a carob tree come out of the ground in front of them, and a well of water, a river of water came out of the ground, and that's where they drank fresh water from and ate carobs all day, all night. But since they knew the mitzvah of Shabbat is to keep new clothes, they said, the clothes that we have, we're going to use for Shabbat. We're going to use this clothes for Shabbat. Why? If we wear it the whole week, eventually something's going to happen. They're going to rip. They're going to get old. Something's going to happen to them. Better off we wear them once a week, and the rest of the week we cover ourselves. So they're not showing irva, they're not showing nakedness. They're covering mamash like as if somebody's buried. Just the head is out. And two, it's not considered filth. It's considered same thing in essence, same thing as your body. Next. You're still not telling me what's hard for you guys. You guys are just asking me questions. So you guys already finished all tshuva. I'm still working on my tshuva. Nobody has any difficulties here. God bless you guys. No? No, that's why I said don't say about you. Say about each other. Say about each other. No?
I think watching one's eyes is more difficult in many ways. A lot of things, it seems that people may not be so bold to engage, even though it could be on their mind constantly to do. But really, what keeps somebody from watching his eyes?
Okay.
Whether he wants to watch or somebody just come, right in front of him.
Watching your eyes is one of the tikkunim of this generation. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, they actually asked Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos, who was the rabbi of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, rabbi of Rabbi Akiva, one of them. And asked Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos, for the Rav, what's going to happen when Mashiach comes? What can we do to be saved? So on and so forth. He says you have to do Torah and Gemilut Chasadim. Follow the Torah, be a ish emet, and do Gemilut Chasadim, do overwhelming kindness, things that are above and beyond. Oh, for the Rav, do you want to see the Mashiach? No, I don't want to be alive. Why? Tikkunim at that time are going to be too difficult. And some of the other Chachamim also said the same thing. He's not alone. Other Chachamim said, no, I don't want to be alive when the Mashiach comes. Why? Generation before the Mashiach comes is going to have extraordinary tikkunim. They're going to have extraordinary difficult tests. But just like they have extraordinarily difficult tests, they also have a much easier version of Judaism. Midah keneged midah. Now, if you look at Judaism today, Technically, it's easier to be a Jew today than any other time in history. No one's persecuting us in reality. If they're persecuting you in your neighborhood, you can move. Let's say, for example, the people that live in France, which is predominantly Arabs now that want to kill us. Move. Move. Take a plane ticket. And if you can't afford it, just start some fund online. People will give you money for a plane ticket. Get your family out of there. Go to Israel. They're more than happy to welcome you. They'll even give you money. Israeli government will give you money to come to Israel. Who's better than you? Go if you don't like it. If you get, meaning persecution is by choice. It's by choice. With all due respect to all those that get persecuted as a Jew, right now it's by choice. They get persecuted. There's a lot of Arabs over there. There's a lot of this, a lot of that. They persecute you. Move. That's it. Simple as it gets. I'm talking about the ones that are on a regular basis. Once in a blue that happens, Shema, that's kaparat avonot. But I'm talking about the things that there's a regular basis type of persecution. There was a place that, when we were considering moving from Boca Raton, the mouth of the rat, we were considering, that's what it means. I know who the rat is, by the way. But anyway, I met him. And so when we're considering moving, we looked at a few choices. And one of the choices, listen, there's a really, really religious neighborhood somewhere, XYZ. I'm not going to mention the place. It's a really, really religious area. Go over there. We looked into it. Ooh, Shema Hashem. Crime over here, crime over here, crime over here. It's a great place. A lot of kedusha in where the Jews are. Unfortunately, right around the neighborhood is a lot of crime. I said, I already have enough kaparat avonot in my life. Thank you very much. I'm going to try somewhere else with less crime. Why? It's crime. So anyone that lives there and is unfortunately persecuted in such a way, you can't say that you didn't really put yourself at risk. You're not allowed to put yourself at risk. So, next thing, keeping mitzvot. When someone says to Hashem that it's hard for him to keep mitzvot in this generation, they should know they're going to show him himself or herself when they get up to Shemaim, they're going to laugh at you. You liar. Look how easy it was. What, Shabbat? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and all of the tzaddikim from 2,000 years ago had to find creative way to heat the food. You have an oven that stays on legally. You have a plata that heats your food. It's better than the rest of the week. You have a hot water, as much as you want. You have the canister. You have all these. It's easy to keep Shabbat. What? You want to? What's the hard part? What's the excuse of not keeping Shabbat? You want to go in a car? Go in a car on Sunday. Go in a car on Shabbat. Go in a car on Friday. Why do you have to go in a car on Shabbat? It's all excuses. It's all excuses. They're going to come to you and say it's excuses. It's always going to be dark. No, there's even ways to have lights on and off. If you must have it on and off, there's even kosher ways of having it on and off. I honestly don't understand the whole kosher thing of how people have timers to turn off the lights at a certain time and turn them on at a certain time. I mean, Baruch Hashem, electric is not that expensive. Where if you save those extra 3 hours 4 times a week, 4 times a month, your electric bill is going to go down by 30%. It's not. I don't know, what are you saving, $5? You spent $6,000 on timers to save $5 a month.
No, but you have these light bulbs. I have it for the kids, because they can't go to sleep with the light. It's a light bulb that has a little switch on the side. When you turn it, it dims the whole, it's like a cover that goes on. It's really cool.
Baruch Hashem. My idea is, I have a better idea. It's cheaper. It's even cheaper than $5. What is it? Turn it off and leave it off. You want on where the living room is. Bedroom, go to sleep. If it's the day, open the window, you have light. That's it. That's my old-fashioned system. But if you have the light already, ashrechem. The point I'm trying to make, you have both systems. One's free, one's $5. Either one is cheap. Or one's $6,000 if you want. Whatever you want, the timers. But the point is, you have no excuse. You have no excuse. It's so easy to keep Shabbat. It's so easy. When Hashem says, "Bepicha b'levcha la'asoto," it's in your mouth, it's in your heart to do. He's telling you it's the easiest thing in the world for you to do. Easiest thing in the world for you to do. Tefillin, 5 minutes. In the old days, you had to do tefillin the tzaddikim used to actually have to make the tefillin themselves. So imagine, we know what the process is? First of all, there's over 1,000 halachot that you need to know before you make tefillin. 1,000 halachot about tefillin. 1,000 halachot. Second of all, you have to go catch the animal. It has to be a kosher animal. If the animal is not kosher, no good. You have to kill it. You have to skin it. You have to fix the skin. Take off all the hair. You have to put it through a whole system of how to make sure it's really soft. Then you have to shape it. Then you have to take the scroll. And you have to make the scroll from a different part. A year process it takes. For professionals, it takes a year. A professional, it takes him a year. You have to make your own tefillin. And then you have a son. You have a son, another son, another son. Every son is a kapata. You have to make tefillin. It's not easy. Today, what, a few $100s, a few $1,000s, whatever your budget is, you get tefillin ready for you. Arrive at your house. 5 minutes. Give Hashem 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And you have tefillin every day. What other mitzvah? Kosher? In the old days, you had to make your own kosher food. You had your own kosher food. You can't, there's nobody that's selling you kosher food. You have to own kosher food. One time, in a restaurant, they didn't have many restaurants in those days, but in restaurants, because there was anti-Semitism, the same restaurant that sold kosher food also sold non-kosher food. I'm talking about 2,000 years ago. So today it's not allowed because different kitchens and so on and so forth, but they would hide the fact that they have kosher food. So one time this Jewish guy comes in, and he asks for, looks at the menu and says, oh yeah, give me ta-ta-ta-ta. And he orders, and the guy gives him food. After he finishes the food, he starts doing Birkat Hamazon. The Baal Habayit says, oh no, I didn't know you were Jewish. He goes, why not? Why didn't you know I was Jewish? What's the problem? Because you know what I just gave you? I gave you pig feet to eat. I gave you non-kosher taref, I gave you taref, I gave you non-kosher meat. Because why'd you do that? I'm a Jew. Because I didn't know you were Jewish. Because why didn't you know I was Jewish? Because Jews do netilat yadayim. Jews wash their hands. That's how I know, Jew and non-Jew. Jew wash their hand, I give him kosher. Non-Jew doesn't wash their hand, I give him whatever I have. That's the Gemara says, that's how somebody that didn't wash their hands before netilat yadayim, that's how you ate non-kosher. So, also in the Gemara, I think it's in Brachot. So, point is that to be a Jew, you don't have to worry about that. You have kosher symbols on the restaurant. You have 5-star restaurants. You have food that can arrive at your house if you want. You have supermarkets that sell a bunch of food. Whatever, for a few dollars, you get whatever meal you want. It's easy. Kosher food's easy. So in reality, what's hard? What's hard to be a Jew? It's easy to be a Jew. But at the same token, just like it's easy to be a Jew, it's hard to be a kosher Jew. Why is it hard to be a kosher Jew? Because to be a kosher Jew, you have to fulfill the mitzvot that they don't sell in stores. Mitzvah number 1 is Yirat Shamayim. Having Yirat Shamayim, having fear of Hashem. Reshit Chochma Yirat Hashem. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Hashem. That's what Shlomo HaMelech says, and also David HaMelech before him in Tehillim 111, verse 10. Says that the beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem. Why if beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem? It says because if you understand that there's a creator above you, immediately you're going to be scared. If you're scared, we consider you smart. Consider you have some wisdom. If you're not scared, you're crazy. You can't be smart. You're not stupid. You're not smart. You're nothing. You're crazy if you're not scared. So, once you actually learn Musar and you learn different things to develop your Yirat Shamayim, everything changes. Everything changes. And the reason why is because if you don't have Yirat Shamayim, all of the mitzvot that you can't buy in stores, and even the mitzvot you can buy in stores, are no longer really applicable to you anymore. It's all based on an opinion. Meaning, if, for example, you're a woman, and you have mitzvah of modesty. A man also has a mitzvah of modesty, but it's not as difficult for a man. Except this generation is a little bit of Hashem Achem homosexual, so they have a different problem. But for the most part, the guys don't have that much of a difficulty, except with the recent style with the tight jeans and everything. But aside from that, it's not that difficult to be modest as a guy. A woman, on the other hand, she goes outside, Barminan, she sees everyone is half naked, three-quarters naked. You don't know who's going to the beach, you don't know who's going to Wall Street, you don't know anything. You don't know if it's winter, if it's summer. They dress the same way the whole year round. And you feel like peer pressure. Why? How could I be the only one that wears clothes that cover my whole body? How could I be the only one that wears clothes that don't show the curves of my body? You feel weird. They start giving you names. Oh, grandma, or old-fashioned, like as if there's something wrong with it. Little do they know that until 2 generations ago, just 2 generations ago, the entire world dressed like this. Not just the Jews, everyone in the world dressed like this from the beginning of time until a couple of generations ago. So for almost 6,000 years, it was perfectly fine. All of a sudden, this generation, everyone's hot. We have air conditioners, but everybody's hot. So, to be modest as a woman, the only way you can be modest is if you have Yirat Shamayim. If you're afraid of God, it's easier to become modest. Why? Because you know God's watching. And God said you have to be modest. You have to cover yourself. You have to leave everything to everyone's imagination. Hopefully they don't even imagine that. And in reality, leave all of your beauty to your husband alone. Either present husband or future husband, if you don't have a husband right now. Nonetheless, the point is, no one is allowed to see anything. With the exception of your face, your palms, your back of your hands, and your feet. That's it. You have to cover. Oh, but it looks like this, but it looks like that. That's how a Jew looks like. You want to show your body, you want to show your chest, you want to show your arms, you want to show your legs, you want to show all. That's not being Jewish. Simple as it gets. You want to be a kosher Jew, you want your tefillah to be accepted in Shemaim. You want to get every time you pray for your kids, the Hashem listens to them. You want every time you pray for Parnassah, Hashem listens to you. You want every single time there's refuah shlema, Hashem listens to you. You want every single time you read Tehillim, Hashem actually cares about your Tehillim. And all of those things, at the beginning of everything, you have to start with modesty. The Chafetz Chaim, alav shalom, said, Bnot Yisrael, they're so holy. And they mean well. And they pray to Hashem so much. The problem is that a lot of the prayers, if we look at all the Isurim, we look at all of the trouble that Am Yisrael has, bombing, stabbings, barminanas, machalot, all types of diseases, all types of trouble for Am Yisrael, day and night. This is already from back then. Imagine today it would be. He says, we see all these different things happening to Am Yisrael, meaning that our prayers are not being answered. Tachlis, bottom line, not being answered. Why? Chazon Ish says, because most of Bnot Yisrael are praying to Hashem naked. Now, he doesn't mean literally naked. He means not modest. And what not modest was he referring to? Gilui Rosh. Showing their hair. That's what he's referring to. A woman prays to Hashem without covering her hair, it's like she's praying naked. A wig, same thing. It's like she's praying naked. Yeah, you're going to tell me, and I'm sure some people are going to tell me, yeah, but this big rabbanit, she's a big rabbanit, and she's famous, and she's married to this rabbi, and she wrote a book, and she says this, and she says this. I'm not saying my opinion. I'm saying Chazon Ish. You have a problem? Pray to Hashem to get you to talk to Chazon Ish. You guys figure it out yourself. It's not my problem. It's not my problem. It's not my opinion. That's what people fail to understand. Judaism is not something that you can just throw your opinion into it. Let me just throw my hat in there. See what happens. You can't just throw your opinion. No one cares about your opinion. Unless you're Gdol Adol. So, the difficulty of being a kosher Jew is most difficult now. And that's what the Chachamim were scared of. Because they realized that just when it comes to modesty in this generation, we are at the most despicable levels we've ever been in since Noach. since Noach. Now, the Gemara says that 974 generations before Hashem created the world, He created the Torah. He wrote the Torah. Black fire on white fire. And the Gemara explains that, what does it mean 974 generations? It says that 974 generations will be generations of people that were Reshaim, that didn't have the merit to receive the Torah. Now, since he knew that if he put them all in one generation, he would have to destroy the world immediately, he spread them out throughout all of the generations. That's what one of the opinions is. He spread them out, these Reshaim, to all of the different generations. But then we got to the generation of Noach. Got to the generation of Noach. They got to such an immodest level, Hashem says, even them I can't let them continue. Why? Immodesty. Immodesty led to other things, wasting seed, and so on and so forth. Hashem destroyed the world. He says, this is not a generation that has the merit, not only to not only get the Torah, it doesn't have the merit to live. So, from here, Bilam HaRasha, the wicked Bilam, said to Balak, you want to win the war? Send immodest women. Why? Their God hates zima, hates immodesty. Where do we learn from? Noach. He destroyed the entire world for it. So now we have a generation that's Shem and Hashem is not too different from the generation of Noach. As much as people like to, this is a reality. Oh Hashem, we have holy people also, that's why we're still alive. But you look at the streets around us, you look at the 8 billion people around us, Jews, non-Jews, this one, that one, doesn't make a difference. The reality is, people are in such deep trouble right now with their modesty that it's both a problem for the women and the men. The women having peer pressure issues. You know, for a woman to wear like real clothes to cover herself and to look modest, it's like she feels like, wait, maybe they're going to call me old, maybe they're going to do this, maybe they're going to look at me this way. I have one woman told me that she works in the yeshiva. She works in the yeshiva in London or somewhere over there in England, and she saw some of our videos about wigs, how it's avodah zarah and so on and so forth. Baruch Hashem, decided to take off the wig and put kisui rosh on, scarf. Shtabach Shemo La'ad, right? Mitzvah. Everyone, you don't need to be religious to know it, right? Mitzvah. Baruch Hashem. She comes to the yeshiva. She works in yeshiva. She doesn't work in a public school. She works in a public yeshiva. She comes to the yeshiva. The principal of the school, Rabbi, he says to her, listen, take off that shmata, put the wig on, or I'm going to fire you. If you don't wear the wig, I'm going to fire you. Rabbi, principal of a school, religious he calls himself, Amalek. So I'm going to fire you. Big tikkun. Oh Hashem, she passed the test, she wrote him a letter, she goes, I'm not taking off the wig. Oh, fire me. Oh Hashem, she's still okay. No firing. Why? Hashem runs the world. But it's a big test. It's Akedat Yitzchak. For her, it's Akedat Yitzchak. All these women look like runway models with hair reaching the floor. Whether they're 80 years old or 20 years old, it all looks the same. And now she has to put something on her head to cover her hair. And not only that, they tell her they're going to fire her for it. She's going to lose jobs, lose money, lose everything. It's a difficult test. For women like this, Mashiach is going to come. For women like this, Mashiach is going to come. Why? She passed the test. So it's difficult for the woman, but it's also difficult for the man. Why? A single guy doesn't know who's married, who's not married. So if he's looking for a shidduch, he doesn't know where to look. He goes to a wedding, a religious guy goes to a religious wedding, everyone looks like they're single. Why? They're all wearing wigs. And the ones that are not wearing wigs look exactly the same as the one wearing wigs. As a matter of fact, the one wearing wigs look better. They look better than them. So he doesn't know. He wants to, oh yeah, she looks nice. I want to have a date with her. What do you mean? She has 3 kids. Get out of here. You, Eshetish, go away. Oh, I didn't know. How is he going to know me skin? He has no way to look. They say we have a shidduch crisis. Not shidduch crisis. No one knows who's single. It's not shidduch crisis. You don't know who's single. You don't know who's nothing. So the guy doesn't know what to do. Now, He have another problem. What's the other problem? He's surrounded by women that don't cover anything. He's surrounded by goyim. He's surrounded by Jews. He's surrounded by a bunch of people that are not modest. And now he wants his wife to look like them. He wants his wife to look like one of these supermodels that he sees on commercials. Or on these this, or on these that. He wants one of them. Why? No yirat shamayim. Okay, he can learn Gemara, he can learn Tosfot, he can learn this, he can learn that. When there's no yirat shamayim, he's not going to be able to watch his eyes. So watching the eyes becomes very, very difficult. So how do you do it? The same way that you can do every single mitzvah in the Torah. I know it's a long answer, but it's a shiur of its own. Same way is to focus every single day, to spend no less than 15 minutes, should be more, but if you're just starting out, no less than 15 minutes of learning musar. Now musar is not learned like you learn halakha. Halakha, you read the beginning of the sentence, you read it to the end of the sentence, you learned halakha. Halakha is you have to do, that's halakha. You learn this, you read a sentence, it says not to do something, not to do, finished. You don't have to think too much. Musar, all you do is think. Musar is not just reading like a robot. That's why to read a Musar book, even though it may be 200, 300, 400 pages, regular normal size book, it could take you 2 years if you're reading it right. Or by the time you got to the point, you read it 6 times. Because the first 5 times you didn't get it. That's why they said, the Chachamim say to read Mesilat Yesharim, Path of the Just, every Jew should read it no less than 100 times. No less than 100 times. Why? It'll take you 100 times to understand what he means. That means you read it right now. And you think you know what it means, you don't know anything. You read it 5 times, you still don't know anything. Why? It's chidushim. It's deep. Why? Because Musar, you have to look at it, you have to meditate on it, you have to figure out, okay, what does he mean? How do I apply this to my life? How do I do this? When did I do this? When did I do that? You know what? This applies. This doesn't apply. You have to meditate on it. So the 15 minutes is not reading 30 pages like you're a speed reader. It's different. So Musar is important to learn for Yirat Shamayim. Once you have Yirat Shamayim, you have everything. Yirat Hashem, iotzaro. Gemara says, after Hashem gave us Shabbat, that was his treasure. What does he have left? He has Yirat Shamayim. That's his treasure. So that's how you pass the test that even the Chachamim, the Tanaim, that were able to revive the dead, go to a cemetery, say get up, everybody gets up. They say, we don't want this test. You have the ability to pass the test. Why? Because just like Hashem gave you the test, he also gave you the ability to pass the test. Give you the ability to pass the test. There was a guy that didn't understand how someone could continue to fail the test if you give him the truth. He was so holy, such a holy chassid. His name is Rabbi Gross. Not the Gross from the Wigs, Chas v'shalom. Not that guy. That guy is Amalek. I'm talking about the Gross that Kodesh Kodashim. And he decided that he's going to go to this horrible neighborhood in Israel, and 40 years ago about. And he's going to move there. Why is he going to move there? There's work to do. Kiruv. So you saw that in the border over there between the Arab places and the Jews, there was Shema there was prostitution, Jewish prostitutes. So he went to the people over there and he says, "Who's your boss?" He says, "Oh, don't talk to the boss. Boss is Pinchas. Pinchas Shema Hashem. He's a criminal. He's a murderer. He's a this. He's a that. Don't mess with him. Nobody, even the cops, are scared of Pinchas." He says, "The police are scared of Pinchas." He says, "Where does he live?" Rabbi, enough's enough. I'm telling you, don't mess with Pinchas. He's no joke. Where does he live? He lives over there, 5th floor. Go. He goes to the house. He goes, "Hello, I want to go." The neighbor heard the knocks on the next door. He goes, "Hey, listen, for the Rav, I don't know who you are. I'm just letting you know. Make sure you wrote a will. Make sure you wrote a will, because if you come in there, you're not going out." He's a cold-blood murderer. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you think you are. All I know is if you go into the house, you're not coming out. Hello? Pinchas, the murderer, opens the door. Ken, how can I help you? What do you want? He says, I came here to say L'chaim. L'chaim, who are you? Oh, what do you want? I just want L'chaim. What do you care? I want to have a L'chaim with you. I want to have a little arak together. I'm moving to the neighborhood. I wanted to do. You're moving to this neighborhood? You, Hasid. This, Hasid, long coat, everything. You're moving to this neighborhood? You didn't find anything else the rest of Israel? I'm moving here. I'm moving next door to you. I want to do L'chaim. Okay, no, come. He sits down with him. This Kodesh Kodashim is sitting with the criminal. Mamash, head of the underworld at that time, at that place. And he says to him, listen, I heard you have a business over there. Why are you doing this to Bnot Israel, the daughters of Israel? Kodesh Kodashim, you're selling them as prostitutes, Hashem and Hashem. Why? Why? It's not good. It's your sisters. He goes, hey, Kvod Harav, I need to pay the bills. You came to say L'chaim. It's a place and a time. Mind your business, Kvod Harav. You're lucky I'm not... Listen, it's Bnot Israel. It's your sister. He's not giving up. He's not giving up. Pinchas says, Kvod Harav, I'm giving you enough respect. Enough. Okay, I'm going to ask you one question. Then I'm going to leave. Did you ever have a dream? Did you ever have a dream of what you want? Did you, when you grew up, you were a kid, did you imagine you're going to be a pimp to your own sisters? This is what you imagine yourself as? He goes, no. Obviously, Kvod Harav, no. So what did you ever dream? I dreamed, I don't know, I have a truck. In those days, 40 years ago, a semi-trailer truck was unheard of. Why, you have a truck? Yeah, and I have a truck. I'll sell things, I buy things, I move things. Yeah, if I had a truck, that's what I imagined myself doing. So if I give you a truck, you stop with this? He says, what do you mean you give me? You know how much a truck is? You go, don't ask how much it is. If I give you a truck, you stop? He goes, you give me a truck, I'm stopping. He went home. Young guy, Avrech, nothing, doesn't have anything. Says to his wife, honey, we're selling the house. Okay, Kvod Harav. He sold his house, he bought him a truck, he showed up to his house with a truck. Here, you have a truck. He stopped and he told everyone in the neighborhood, listen, anyone touches one of these Jewish women, you have to deal with me. Baruch Hashem did tshuva, and he actually still lives in that area to this day. There's almost no crime in the entire area from what he did. Why? He believes what Hashem wrote is what's going to happen. He believes that there is a diamond inside you. Sometimes it's hard to find, but it's in there. No, next question. Go.
With regard to modesty in business and even social interactions,
Okay.
what is the best way to approach, like when members of the opposite sex come and shake your hand or even give you a hug in some situations? How do you tell them that you can't do that without being rude?
Okay, so first, that's okay. So the question is, how do you protect yourself from something that's going to hurt you spiritually? Now, in today's society, for women and men to hug and kiss, even if they're not husband and wife, has become a very normal thing, to such a point where you can say during your question that saying no to it is offensive. So first, to acknowledge that we have a problem, that people think that it's offensive. So that's first thing, to already realize that there's a problem with the question to begin with. Now, it's not easy because you don't want to stand out. You don't want to be frowned upon, but at the same token, it's better, the Gemara says, it's better to be viewed as a drunk for 70 years by everyone around you, by the entire world, making specials on television. Oh, this is Yaron the drunk. Every day, morning and night, there's no commercial breaks at all. Morning and night, they have a special, Yaron is drunk. Yaron is drunk, Yaron is drunk, all day, all night. All they talk about is Yaron is drunk. It's better to be that guy than to be viewed as a Rasha in the eyes of Hashem for a moment. One moment. Not 7 years, 1 moment. So that's a second thing we need to know. Now, as far as the simplest way to get people to understand where you stand is exterior. This is one of the reasons why a Jew needs to look like a Jew. if a Jew looks like a goy, and he wears clothes like a goy, and he covers himself or doesn't cover himself like a goy, and he acts like one, and he speaks like one, and so on and so forth, then it's offensive. Then it's offensive. Why? Because wait, you're just like us every other time, except now. Why? Don't you like me? Is it something? They're not going to think, oh no, he's watching his eyes, he's watching his legs. They don't understand that concept. So first and foremost, this is where the exterior comes. So you have to do whatever you can to make sure that you look Jewish. You look like you care about God. One of the best ways to do it is with the kippah. But the kippah that is bigger than a quarter. The bigger the kippah, the more religious you look. As a matter of fact, according to halakha, you're supposed to, kippah, even though you're not obligated to wear it, but as far as the way it's supposed to be done for the chassidut that it's supposed to be done, you're supposed to cover your entire head. That's why Rambam and Ben Ish Chai and so on, all of them, you see them covering their hair with a turban. That's actually how you're supposed to do it. I asked my rabbi if I'm allowed to do it. He still told me I have to wait. So, I'm serious. You guys think I'm joking. I want to cover my hair like that. Turban, the whole thing. If I came to you like I want to come to you, you guys think I'm an Arab. So my wife laughs at me too. So the important thing is to wear kippah. Wear kippah. Kippah is a sign of Yirat Shamayim. Kippah is a sign. Kippah is a sign that you understand that there's something above you. When you wear a stylish kippah that's like colorful, has stripes, has diamonds on it, has bells, has spinners, has this, has that, then it looks like a fashion statement. With all due respect to all the people that wear colorful kippahs and so on, I mean, that may be them. It's fine. But to someone, I used to be secular, I used to be secular, not like you guys, tzaddikim from there you're born. I used to be secular. Now, I remember the kippah that you'd wear 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year. When bar mitzvah, wedding, they have it in the entrance. The kippah for 25 cents, you put on the head, you feel religious for 2.5 minutes. On Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, you get the kippah for 25 cents. That's what you feel. But everyone knows it's fake. So if everyone knows your kippah is fake, what about him? So you can't expect him to take you seriously. So that's one thing is as far as kippah. Your kippah has to be something where it represents who you are. If you're not ready, then who you are is not ready. That means that your second step will be a little more difficult. Doesn't mean you have to wear kippah tomorrow this big. Just means that this is one barrier that you can put to help yourself. That's why some people put a hat on and so on. Second thing is your clothes. Your clothes should look like a modest person. If you're wearing t-shirts and tank tops, and you look like every average Joe. Again, you're allowed as a guy to wear the t-shirts. You're allowed. But then you haven't distinguished yourself from them. You look like them. So now you don't want to act like them. It looks strange. And I can tell you as a person that used to be secular, if I looked at you, I wouldn't think of you as a religious person if you're wearing a t-shirt or a tank top like me. Because I wore a tank top and a t-shirt. And I wasn't religious. So you look like me. So why don't you want to hug? Why don't you want to kiss? What's wrong with you? You don't like me? Understand? So that's why we're not allowed. Levush goyim doesn't necessarily mean that we wear specific clothes and therefore we're goyim. The point is that you have to be able to tell the difference a little bit. Again, these are not obligations. These are just barriers you can put. If that's also difficult, by the way, a suit, if you work in the corporate world, you wear a suit anyway. Everyone wears a suit. In general, you look more respectable in a suit regardless. Now, if that's not possible, or all the time, sometimes and so on, there's other things to do. Next thing to do is try to always make sure that if you're leaving your office or you're leaving your house or wherever, to always carry something in your hands. Carry 3, 4, 5 books in your hands, or a bag. Always have something in your hands. Why? Because when some woman comes to you, shake your hands, you go with If you're not comfortable telling her, by the way, Hashem doesn't allow me to touch a woman's hand. That's not my wife. It's not appropriate. It's not mine. If you're not ready for that lecture, just go. Have groceries in your hand. Have the kid in your hand. Have asaf in your hands. Whatever. Carry something in your hands. Carry something in your hands. Why? Nobody's going to ask you. to shake hands. This happens to me sometimes. I go to lectures, I go to different places, and sometimes, women are not necessarily, they don't know the rules or whatever, especially if they're new. They want to shake, Kavod the Rav, hi. It's like, I carry the books. The 18 books are in my hand. I start taking the books out of the suitcase. Out of the suitcase. Why? Because you got to start giving them a lecture about it. It's not always the right place, the right time. And also, you don't want to embarrass them, because the fact that you know doesn't mean that they know. So that's the third thing you can do, is carry something in your hands. Babies, books, bags, briefcases, people, whatever you want, just carry something in your hands. That's the next thing you can do. Last but not least, you could simply say it. You could simply say, no offense to you, but in Judaism, I'm a Jew, and in Judaism we're not allowed to touch a woman that's not our wife. And it's not a disrespect to a woman that's not our wife, it's actually honor to our wife. Every woman on planet Earth that has a brain and a heart that's made out of flesh and blood will melt. Why? Wow. The Jews love their wives so much, they only touch their wives. Even to shake your hands. It's Kiddush Hashem. You just turn into a walking Kiddush Hashem. The guy, my husband touches everything that walks, the cats, the dogs, the neighbors, the clerks, the this, the that. This guy is not even willing to touch his boss to shake a hand. I'm about to give $1 million, he doesn't want to shake my hand. Why? I'm not his wife. Any woman that has sense and is not an anti-Semite will have no problem. And if you don't worry about anti-Semitism, Hashem takes care of them too. So those are the few things you can do. It all depends on which test you want. You want test number 1? Take test number 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever one you want. The key is to try to get yourself out of that situation if you're not comfortable with yourself. Some people are very comfortable in their own skin. And they're able to say what they want to say whenever they want to say it in an appropriate way. Now, I'm not talking about those people that have a sewer mouth where everything comes out. I'm talking about people that know how to handle themselves and they're comfortable in their own skin and they're able to say what they feel without hurting other people, but at the same time without hurting themselves. Some people are a little more shy, or they're a little more careful, or they're concerned about other people's perspective, or they don't know how to communicate, or whatever it is. So for them, there's other things. There's other equations. And if anybody ever tells you, if you ever get one of these smart people, it says, wait a minute, but my rabbi shakes my hand, and he's Orthodox, he's more Orthodox than you. He's more religious than you. He's more this than you. What's the answer? I can't speak for anybody else. All I know, this is what I learned, this is what I do. This is what I learned, this is what I do. Whatever your rabbi does, God bless him. I don't know what he does, I don't know what he doesn't do. My teacher told me I can't do it, that's it. That's it. But always make sure that they realize it's not because of them. It's because of you and your relationship with God. Next question.
We were talking, it was last week when we mentioned that the Anshe Chesed Gula, they decided because Avodah Zarah was such a serious problem because idols were basically doing so many things. They were animated, and it was such a serious problem that they said, we want them to stop having such power. So, but in order to do that, they had to have a trade-off. They said, well, Hashem said, well, we're going to do that, I'm taking away Nevuah. Right? That was the
I don't remember that part, but go ahead. No.
That was basically
as far as not taking off Nevuah, because we didn't have the merit.
Right, but didn't it have something to do with that there was a choice around the time, because
no, there was
the last prophet.
Right.
But this is why he was, because, I mean, there was school part of it, but didn't they say like
a deal? I don't remember. You may be right. I never heard it.
Yeah, I thought
I can't tell you yes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the question?
Maybe I should have thought that.
Okay. So your question. What's the question?
So that being the case, would did Chazal ever discuss saying, well, since yes, the power of idols has been weakened in many places, but not all places. You can go to places like China and stuff, and these idols are still doing things. People talk about it. They'll come, they'll see, they'll take something, they'll snatch it, and they'll do it. They do animated things.
Okay.
And we still have idol worship. Like the dollar says, in God we trust, but we know that the dollar is the God. It's not really Hashem, even though that maybe was the original intent of it. Wouldn't we be better off with the idols having the power anyway? Because since idolatry is so prevalent, we still have the nevuah. And what the Chazal speak to this and saying,
I don't well, that's the thing. I don't think it was necessarily a choice whether we have prophecy or not. I don't think that having prophecy was necessarily our choice. I think Hashem just removed it because we didn't have the merit. But as far as the type of idolatry that we have in the world today is nothing in comparison to the idolatry that they had back then. Back then, there was only two religions. There was Judaism and there was idolatry. Today, there's over 80,000 different sects and religions and so on. Even though they're all some form of idol worship, it's not the same type. The next thing is the fact that many of the Jews fell for the idolatry, including people that were technically tzaddikim otherwise. They were technically tzaddikim otherwise. For example, the Gemara says that Rava was giving a shiur Torah to his students, and he got up to the shiur about Menashe. Menashe, the wicked king that eventually did tshuva after, but he was a wicked king. He took his grandfather Isaiah the prophet, he chopped him up into little steak pieces. He chased him. Isaiah was hiding in the tree. He cut the tree up. He brought idol worship to Am Yisrael, Shema, did all types of horrible things. Now, eventually he did tshuva. But before he did tshuva, he was an idol worshiper. So Rava says, like jokingly, oh, now we're up to our friend Menashe. Now Rava is Kodesh Kodeshim, and when he says something, the Shamayim hear it. So Menashe came to Rava in the middle of the night and says, how dare you call yourself my friend? You're not my friend. You're not on the same level as me to be my friend. You don't even know where to take the motzi from, what's called the lechem. Lechem mishneh, we have lechem mishneh for Shabbat, 2 chalot. He says, you don't even know which part of the challah to take the motzi out of. Do you know? He goes, no, I don't know. He goes, you don't know. What do you know? You think you're a Talmid Chacham? You don't know anything. He says, well, which part is it? He says, the part to take it out is the part that's burnt the most. The part that's burnt the most, that's the part you make motzi out of. So he says to him, okay, so if you're so smart, how come you worship idols? If you're so smart, if you know so much Torah. He says to him, if you were alive in my generation, and you saw what I saw, you saw what these idols did, you saw what these idols were capable of doing, you would pick up your chaluk, your robe, they used to wear robes, you would pick up your robe and you start chasing them down the street, faster than me. Meaning that the idol worship that they lived through and the idol worship that we have today, it's not the same. What you're describing is not the same as what they had. Some of the mefarshim, the commentators, say that literally some of the idols literally walked. Like it was unbelievable. So the test was enormous. Now Chazal also said that they wanted to do the same thing for arayot, for sex crimes. Modesty. And they prayed to Hashem, cancel this decree, cancel this midah, cancel this ta'ava, this desire, cancel this whole thing. We can't stand by it. Look, all the Bnot Yisrael, Tzadikot, are becoming not modest. In those days, what's not modest? Start wearing heels with bells on them. That was not modest. Not showing their bodies. They used to wear a little bigger shoe, and the shoe had bells on it. Why? The bell is getting people's attention. That's not modest. Say, look, Hashem, now look, Bnot Yisrael are not modest. Cancel this whole thing. Do it. So then they noticed, so Hashem listened to them. They prayed in the Beit HaMikdash, Hashem listened to them. No one had desire for intimacy. What happened? They started realizing that the chickens are not laying eggs. Why? They didn't mate. Started realizing the cows are not giving milk. Why? They didn't mate. Kids are not being born. Why? No one mated. Why? Hashem removed the decree, removed the ta'ava for it. So, oh, that's too much. We're going to destroy it. So this generation, one generation, we're finished. Hashem gave it back to us. Why? Because everything that Hashem gave it to us can be used for good and bad, including idol worship. Including idol worship. Not chas v'shalom to go idol worship, but to understand the significance of God. To understand the nothing that the world has and everything that we have. When you understand what you have, easily it should make you much more righteous. Easily it should make you much more excited to be a Jew. When you understand that you actually the only one, you're one of very few people in the entire world that actually has the truth. Everyone claims to have the truth. No one wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I can't wait to live a lie. Everyone's convinced they're living the truth. They wake up in the morning, oh, I can't wait to live my truth. What's my truth? Wall Street. What's my truth? Oil. What's my truth? Having 500 women. What's my truth? Having this. Everyone thinks that their truth is money or power or government or business or friends or whatever it is. And some people have their religion. They think that's the truth. Now, there are almost 8 billion people in the world. Out of the 8 billion people, there's approximately 20 million Jews that we know of. Out of the 20 million Jews, there's somewhere around 3 million religious ones that actually keep Shabbat. So you're talking about the 3 million are the only ones that testified that God created the world. That's it. 3 million. You have 8 billion people. 3 million say God created the world. The other 17 million may also say it, but they don't mean it. Why? Because God said, testify that I created the world. To testify you created the world, you have to admit, I created the world in 6 days and I rested on the 7th. How do you admit it? You can't. Saying it to me means nothing. How do you say it? By keeping Shabbat. Every time you violate Shabbat, it's as if you scream to Hashem, hey Hashem, I don't believe in you. Shema Hashem. That's what you're saying. That's what Gemara says. Every time you go to work on Shabbat, every time you turn on the computer on Shabbat, every time you drive on Shabbat, every time you play on the phone on Shabbat, every time you do something that's Isur Shabbat on purpose, in essence, you're screaming to Hashem, I don't believe in you. And then we cry to Hashem, oh, why'd you do this to me? Why'd you do this to me? I had a woman send me a text the other day, and she says, oh, some relative of hers got a heart attack. Shema Hashem. Baruch Hashem, he's still alive. He's in the hospital. And she says, can you do a refuah shlema for him? Can you do a refuah shlema for him in a shiur? And I said, when I noticed when she sent the text message, it was a Shabbat afternoon, and I know where she lives, I know where he lives, and it says, better than my refuah shlema that I'm going to say in a shiur in 5 seconds, better that he starts keeping Shabbat, because the fact that he's still alive is a miracle of its own. If you keep Shabbat, you're already on a good list. If you don't keep Shabbat, every second you're alive is borrowed time. That's what we have to understand. Somebody came to one of the Chachamim, to the Chazon Ish, and told him, Kavod Arav, I keep having this dream that my father keeps coming to me. My father keeps coming to me in a dream. And he says, keep Shabbat, keep Shabbat, keep Shabbat. And I don't know anything. What does he mean, keep Shabbat? What does he want? Chazon Ish says to him, you want to live? You want to live? You want to be alive? Yeah, Kavod Arav, sure. I came to you. I don't know. I came to my rabbi. He told me he sent to you. I don't know you. Chazon Ish is 90 years old. Well, I don't know anything. Why? What does he mean? What does he want from me? He says, I'm going to tell you what he wants from you. But you have to promise me to answer my question too. Okay, deal. He wants you to keep Shabbat. Okay, what does it mean? He says it means that he wants you to testify every week that you believe in God. How? Keeping Shabbat. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to stop working on Shabbat. Okay, fine. He says, okay, what's the deal then for the Rav? What's the? He says, I want to know what merit you have. What'd you do that's so good in your life that you were able to see your father after he died? Not everybody sees their father after he dies. You have 3 dreams about your father telling you keep Shabbat, keep Shabbat, keep Shabbat. It's a big deal. What'd you do that's so special, makes you such a big tzaddik? There's nothing. I'm a nice guy. Everybody's a nice guy. I give some tzedakah to the local Chabad house. Everybody gives Chabad house. I watch my mouth. Everybody watches their mouth. What? What would you do? What'd you do? I don't know. Kavod Rav. He's thinking. Something special you did. Well, you know, something special I remember I did when I was 11. There was a war, and it was a bombing where we were, and my father used to bury all the bodies, and one of the times my father couldn't do it, and I did it, because I knew how important it was for my father to bury the bodies, and I did it. And I was 11 years old. That's it. That's it. That's the reason. That's the reason why your father came to you in a dream. Why? You did chesed without even knowing that you're doing chesed. You gave honor to the dead. And therefore you got honor after he died. Point being is that not all of us have this merit. That someone's going to come to us in a dream and tell us, hey, by the way, keep Shabbat, keep Shabbat. Baruch Hashem, we have enough merit. We're still alive. So, when someone understands the significance of Shabbat, he's going to keep it. So what's the difference between the righteous and the wicked? The righteous is going to understand that whether I like it or not, Hashem will provide me parnasah. Whether I work 10 hours a day, 100 hours a day, 5 hours a day, this job, garbage pail, selling houses, selling real estate, cutting hair, whatever I'm doing, Hashem will pay the bill somehow. What's the difference? A righteous person has a little bit of emunah to understand that Hashem runs the world. The wicked person doesn't mean to be wicked. Doesn't mean he's evil. The wicked person, what does he say? Hashem needs my help. That's what the wicked person says. Hashem needs my help. He has enough money to give everyone else in the world except me. The ant gets food, I'm not going to get it though. She took my food. The little what's it called, cow, she gets her food, I'm not going to get the food. So the cow ate my food. The guy next door, he has food, but I don't have it. I have to help God, so I have to go work on Shabbat. That's the simple difference between righteous and wicked. It doesn't make the person bad. It doesn't make the person evil. It just makes them foolish. Why? Because they're losing everything for simple point. Simple, confused point where they think they need to help God. If you believe in God, the God of Israel, you can't work on Shabbat. Why? Because you know he told you not to. So this is one of the difficult tests sometimes for people, because it's completely rewiring your brain. For me personally, it was rewiring my brain. I didn't work on Shabbat, but for me, just that's the day that we used to relax, watch TV, watch movies, go away, and so on and so forth. And now you're telling me that I can't do it. So to me, it sounds like a boring day. Once you actually try it and you see the blessing that comes with it, you realize that the only thing that you made a mistake in is that you didn't do it sooner. You didn't do it sooner. So the issue of Bet HaMikdash and the Chachamim of the time, when they asked Hashem to remove some of the big tests that we had, we realized that each one of these tests has a bigger purpose. And if he gave us the test, he also gave us the power to overcome it. And to finalize this specific point, Moshe Rabbeinu saw a bunch of babies in Mitzrayim that Hashem was killing them. And he told Hashem, why are you killing these babies? What did they do? They're babies. They didn't even have enough time to sin. What did these babies do? Hashem says, don't worry about these babies. They're wicked. They're part of the 974 generations I told you about a half hour ago. They're part of the 974 generations of wicked neshamot. It's better that they die. It's better for them that they die. Not just the world, it's better for them that they die. So, this was hard for Moshe Rabbeinu to understand. Because he's still human. He says, let me save one. Let me save one. So you want to save one? Save one. Go, save one. He saved one, and his name was Micha. He named him himself Micha. What's Micha? He was supposed to He was supposed to put him under one of the blocks to crush him. He took him from out of it. He saved his life. Instead of him being crushed by one of these giant rocks that makes the pyramids, he took him. He saved him. And this little Micha followed Moshe Rabbeinu around. Followed Moshe Rabbeinu around all the time. He has a little Micha running around. Now, during the Exodus, years passed, Moshe Rabbeinu came to take Am Yisrael out with the plagues, a year worth of plagues, and so on and so forth. It's time to leave. But always begging us to leave. Moshe Rabbeinu says, the Shvatim, my ancestors, Shevet Levi and his brothers, made a promise to Yosef. What? The promise was to take his bones out from Egypt and bring it to Eretz Yisrael. Where's the grave? Now the Egyptians, until they made Am Yisrael slaves, they worshipped Yosef. Because Yosef, you're going to see from last week's parasha and this week's parasha, he made Egypt very rich. So they turned him into a god. So when they buried him, they hid the grave. Why? Because they said, look, all the fortune that we have came from this Yosef. They turned anything good into a god. So they buried him, and they threw they didn't tell anybody where it was. Who knew? Serach bat Asher. Serach was the daughter of Asher, who was the only person still alive. Because Yaakov, in this week's parasha, is going to bless her when she's the one that breaks the news, if you will, that Yosef is still alive, in a song. And she got a blessing from Yaakov Avinu to live forever. She got a blessing from him. So Serach bat Asher, Serach, the daughter of Asher, was still alive, and she's the only one that knew where Yosef was buried. He was buried inside the Nile River. The Nile River was one of their false gods. They put Yosef HaTzadik inside there also. So now Moshe Rabbeinu found Serach bat Asher. She's a few hundred years old. She's like 800 years old or something like that already. Says, Serach, hey, how are you? How you doing? Yeah, everything is good. Okay, we killed Egypt. Great. Can you tell me where Yosef is? Oh, he's buried down the street. Go, make a right, make a left, make a left, down the street, put the stop sign, the door. Okay, over there, you have to take, okay, great. I get to the Nile. What do I do now? Oh, that's your problem. Once you get to the Nile, that's your problem. You have to take the grave out of the Nile. How are you going to take the grave out of the Nile? Know how deep it is? They don't have scuba diving equipment. They don't have submarines. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes inside. Moshe Rabbeinu goes inside. Over there, he sees the Nile, no grave, no nothing. He takes a mate, piece of metal. He puts the Shem Meforash, Hashem's name on one side. On the other side, he writes, Ale Shor Ale. Rise, bull, rise. Why rise, bull, rise? Because each one of the Shvatim, each one of the tribes had a symbol. Each one of the Shvatim, like Yehuda was a lion. Yosef was a bull. So he says, rise, bull, rise. And he threw the mate, the little piece of metal with God's name on it and this verse on it, into the water. And he said, Yosef, either you pick yourself up out of the water or I'm leaving you here. And he threw the mate in. The grave, come outside. Here you go, Moshe, like a little dish. Like a little dish to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, little did Moshe know that this little Micha, in the beginning of the story, remember the little baby that was following him around? He was hiding in the bushes. And little Micha was hiding in the bushes. As soon as Moshe is excited, he got the grave of Yosef HaTzadik. He's carrying it by himself. It's not so light. Micha jumps into the water and takes the mate. He takes the piece of metal and hides it. You fast forward a little bit of time, a couple of months. Moshe Rabbeinu is in Mount Sinai. He's with Hashem, Chavruta, studying together, Gemara, Tosfot, Mishnayot, Shulchan Aruch, everything he's studying together. And the Gemara says every day he finished what they learn, he forgets everything. He finished the whole night he's learning, all day he's learning, all night he's learning. In the morning he says, Hashem, I don't know anything. Okay, we'll go again. Again, learns, night, day, Hashem, I don't know anything. Okay, we'll start again. Every day he forgets everything. At the end of 40 days, he says, Hashem, I study with you day, night, no eating, no sleeping, no drinking, no nothing. I still know nothing. He says, okay, you tried, I'm going to give you the Torah. And he gave it to him like a present. So now, he's late. to return from Mount Sinai by 6 hours. According to the calculation that Am Yisrael had, he was supposed to return 6 hours ago. He comes late. So now they think he died. Malach HaMavet comes to Am Yisrael and he says, Am Yisrael, he died. He shows them a movie. Look, Moshe died. Look, all the angels are carrying his body. He showed him a movie. Mama showed him a movie that he's dead. And Am Yisrael falls for it and says, okay, we need another middleman. We need another middleman that's going to connect us to God. They go to her and say, make us a middleman, make us a god. Her says, no. They kill him. Aaron, make us a god. Aaron says, if I don't make it, they're going to kill me also, which is not a big deal to die. But they're not going to have a Kohen. If they don't have a Kohen, no one's going to be able to purify them to do tshuva. So let me just buy time. Let me buy time. I'm going to ask them for something that people don't want to give. What do people not want to give? Money. He says, give me all of your money. Give me all your gold. Give me all your gold. All of a sudden, Yetzirah left the building. Yetzirah left the building. He went on vacation. He went to Tahiti, went to Bali, he went to one of these places. And all of a sudden, everybody starts ripping their earrings off, their chains off, and they're throwing gold at him. No one has Yetzirah for money. Everyone wants to be a Baal Chesed, the gift tzedakah, the maaser, the 20, 50. People are giving money like it's running out of stars, like it's going bad, like a milk. They throw the gold at him. Aaron is a little surprised. He says, okay, but it still takes a while for the gold to melt and to be something. So he's like, all right, throw it all into the fire. It's going to burn. It has to go to 3,000 degrees to melt. To get to that level is a long time. By then, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come down already. He knew that Moshe was still alive. Okay, throw it into the fire. Throw it into the fire. All of a sudden, this little Micha comes, and what does he do? He throws the mateh. He throws a little piece of metal into the fire also. What does the metal say? Aleh, sho aleh, rise, bull, rise. What comes out of the fire? The bull. What does the bull say? Ani Hashem Elokechem. I am God that took you out of Egypt. What, you think they started worshipping an idol? They bought a Chinatown for $15. What, you think Am Yisrael is stupid? No, the bull spoke. The bull spoke. How did it speak? It used the tool that Moshe Rabbeinu used also. So, these things are not so pashut. They're not so simple. Am Yisrael is not retarded. We made mistakes, but we're not retarded. We're not fools. Every test, if you read the Midrashim, you read the Gemarot, you read the background of the story, you realize, you know what? I probably would have failed worse than them. So, when it comes down to our generation, we have a very big test. We have a test of materialism, which has always been a test. And this is a test that the only thing that can cure it is Torah. The more holiness, the more Torah you add into your life, real Torah, Torah that's based on Yirat Shamayim, Torah that's based on real Musar, the less materialistic you're going to be. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has to become homeless in the corners to be looking for change, but you'll realize that the more you pay attention to what Torah says, the less you care about material. The less you care about material, the more material will probably come to you anyway. But you'll use it more effectively. You'll use it for better things. It'll be easier for you to give tzedakah. It'll be easier for you to pay for the yeshiva. It'll be easier for you to do good things with the money instead of wasting the money on nonsense. So that's number one. The second thing is immodesty. The issue of immodesty is a very, very big test for both men and women. And the way for, if you're already married, the deal should be both for the guy and the girl. If the husband wants his wife to be modest, he has to promise his wife that he's never going to look at any other woman. Because if you're looking at other women, why should she be modest? If you're going to look at anything that walks, if you're a Gilgul, if you're a reincarnation of a Mamtera, of one of these fountains outside that goes like this all day, you're one of the reincarnations of it. Every day, all day, you're just looking like this. then why is she going to be modest? You're going to look at everything that walks in you. Well, what difference? Let me get everybody else to look at me also then. She thinks it's being even. But if he agrees that he's not going to look at anyone else, it will behoove you to also be the one that he looks at. So it's not fair for you to have Steve and Carlos and Jack and all the people from the supermarket looking at you when your husband promised his eyes to you. So if you're married, this is the easiest way to do it, is when it's an agreement. Now, if your husband is wicked and he doesn't want to do it, you still have to do it as a woman. Why? Because whether your husband wants to go to Gan Eden or Gehenom is irrelevant. You still want a place in Gan Eden. Because if I told you, listen, the whole world decided that they're not going to work tomorrow and everyone's going to go homeless and starve to death, are you still going to go to work? Or are you going to go starve like them? No, you're going to still go to work. Why? Because it makes sense to go to work. Because you don't want to starve like them. So just because he wants to ruin his life doesn't mean that you have a right to ruin your life also. So it's easier if you both do it. It's easier if it's an agreement. It's easier if it's together. But even if it's not, you still have to do it. And to be a modest woman, you have to understand, you have to cover your body from head to toe. Your head, your hair has to be covered with a mitpachat. Your body has to be covered in a way where you're leaving everything to the imagination of your husband. And obviously to the rest of the world that's supposedly not looking. You can't wear clothes that show your skin. You can't wear clothes that show your shape. You have to wear bigger clothes a little bit. You have to wear things that are not so tight. You have to wear certain colors. You know, again, modesty doesn't mean ugly. As a matter of fact, a modest woman usually looks better than an immodest woman. So, yeah, classy. So, when it comes down to modesty, you have to understand that you have to cover yourself as much as possible. The only thing you're really allowed to show is the palms of your hands, the back of your hands, your feet, your face. That's it. Not supposed to show any of your chest or your elbows or beyond your elbows and so on and so forth. This is very, very important for a woman to understand, because if she really understands that she's a Bat Israel, she's a daughter of Israel, she's a daughter of God, she's a princess, and she has to act like one. You don't see, le'avdil, the big difference between us and them, but the point is, you see the king and queen of England, you don't see them walking around with bikinis. You don't see them walking around with tank tops. They're not even Jewish. As a matter of fact, some of them are anti-Semites. But they're modest. So, people understand, modesty means a certain thing. You don't even need to be a genius. So, a woman that covers herself already is telling Hashem, I understand that I have a certain chovah, I have a certain obligation in this world. I have a God that looks at me, a God that cares about every single thing. I'm not public property. Not public property. What another guy thinks about is my business. Why? Because if he thinks about me, I get the sin. If another guy thinks about me, regardless of whether he's with his wife or with his girlfriend or alone, and he thinks about me because he saw me being immodest, I get the sin. I'm a partner in the sin, 100% partner in the sin. So, it's not an easy test. Why? Because a woman that wants to be modest, she also has to deal with the fact that everyone around her is not. But that's Yirat Shamayim. That's Yirat Shamayim. That's fear of Hashem. When you only care about what God's opinion is, it doesn't matter what everybody else is wearing. It doesn't matter if they're wearing bikinis, or they're not wearing anything, or they're wearing jalabiyas like the Arabs. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. Why? Because you care. The only opinion you care about is God's opinion. That's the only opinion that matters. So it becomes much easier when you do it as a couple, but even if you're single, even if one of you doesn't want to do it, you still have to do it. You still have to find a way to do it. Now, how to do it? Best way, Shiurei Torah. When you go to Shiurei Torah, and especially the Shiurei Torah, they keep giving it to you on the head, to keep reminding you of the same thing that you already heard 600 times, and you still didn't do it, you keep going to those Shiurei Torah. You still keep learning those shurim. You keep reading those types of books that are constantly going to remind you. That's going to break the shell. That's going to break it, because Shur Torah, or the learning of Torah, is what's going to break that hard shell that's the big Yetzirah that's going to stop you from doing it. Now, I asked you guys in the beginning of Shio, what's hard? You said only one thing. I don't know how long I've been talking, but there's only one thing so far, which was the watching the eyes. I think we also answered about Shabbat a little bit. What else? Well, that's hard.
Anger. I mean, sometimes you see things that really annoy you, that you see things that wicked Rashayim are doing. They're not just wicked, but they're also evil. And it really gets to you, and it can make you very angry. And if, let's say, tend to be a little bit more hot-blooded.
If you're Jewish, you're hot-tempered.
You're Jewish, and maybe you're from Tripoli. Or
You're from Tripoli for sure.
Comes from Halabi or Mosul or wherever it is.
Okay,
and
so
it's been more of a challenge for
okay,
you.
so here's the thing.
So,
The
what do you
Gemara.
do?
Okay, so here's the thing. Now we make sins. We make sins not because we hate God. We make sins because we either don't believe or we don't know. What time is it? 9. Okay, so for a little bit more. Then we'll finish with the introduction. Then we'll start the shiur. So no, we'll finish soon. This is a point we really should finalize with, and I explain to you why. It's a very long point, but nonetheless, it's an important one you should take home. Only 2 types of sinners. Only 2 types of sinners. There's not multiple types of sinners. There's 2 types of sinners. 1 doesn't know. 2 doesn't believe. That's it. There's no other type of sinner. There's nothing in the middle. If they know and they still sin, that just simply means they don't believe it. You told them the information. You told them Hashem said, Amechalel Shabbat mot yumar, is cutting away his bracha and his money. He's cutting away his life. He's guaranteed Gehinnom forever. He gets punished in this world. He gets punished in the next world, and so on and so forth. And he still does it. That means he just simply doesn't believe what you're saying. He's saying, yeah, you're full of it. I don't believe you. Simple. I don't believe you. That's it. I don't have to believe you just because you said it. You said it, so what? That's one type of sinner. The other type of sinner doesn't know. Miskin doesn't know. The guy doesn't know. What do you mean he doesn't know? Most people know you're not allowed to drive on Shabbat. Doesn't know the significance of it. And if I told you that every time you turn on the car on Shabbat, I'm not talking about doing business on Shabbat. I'm not talking about eating out on Shabbat. I'm not talking about lighting a barbecue on Shabbat. I'm just going to turn the car once, turn it off. One time you turn it on. One of my students is an engineer, and he said every time you turn on the car, it's like lighting no less than 6,000 fires. That means you just violated Shabbat 6,000 times. It's 6,000 different sins. 6,000 different sins. And if you drive the car, bar minan, depends what speed you go, you're in essence violating Shabbat millions and millions of times just to go down the street. You know, it's not one time you drive the car, okay, that's one sin. You turn on the phone, that's one. It's not one sin. Each time you've ignited a fire, it's a new sin. One time somebody said, listen, I don't believe that electricity is fire. So Rabbi again says, you know what, you may be right. Why don't you hold on to the light bulb? If you go on fire, it's fire. If you don't go on fire, it's not fire. So, the issue of turning on the car is a big deal. Now, okay, so now you know it's a big deal. But what does it mean, big deal? If I told you for every one of those sins, you turn on the car, you had 6,000 of them, just to turn on the car. Forget about going to the store, going to the street, going to work. Forget about that. You made 30 million sins by the time you got 15 minutes down the road. Talk about just turning on the car, 6,000 sins. For every one of those sins, I have a book that's comprised of different verses from different places, from the Zohar, Shulchan Aruch, Sifrei Tzadikim, the Chumash, the Tanakh, different places. Somebody compiled all these different lists. For every one of those sins, out of the 6,000, there's 25 different types of pages full of verses. 25 pages full of verses. So average page has about somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe about a dozen to 12 to 18 different punishments. Each page. For one violation of Shabbat. You have 25 times, let's say 12, we'll be conservative. That means for each sin you have 300 different punishments. For how long? Forever. One time, 6,000 times. You do the math, it's psychopath. So if you still do it, that means you don't believe. Why? Because to do it and believe, you must be crazy. Which means anyone that sins either doesn't know or doesn't believe. So now, when it comes to the issue of anger, most people don't understand the significance of it. The Gemara says that someone that's angry is the equivalent of an idol worshiper. Idol worshiper. It's the equivalent of idol worship. What's another thing that's called idol worship in the Torah? Chilul Shabbat. Someone that violates Shabbat, someone's an idol worshiper. To Hashem's eyes, it's the same exact thing. So what happens to a Mechalel Shabbat? Bad things. What happens to an idol worshiper? Bad things. Bad things happen. It's not a good thing. Now, the more we learn about these things, the more we understand that it's significant in the eyes of Hashem, the easier it is to stop sinning. Sometimes people need a shiur Torah to wake up. Sometimes they need a little sefer, a little book to read it, musar, to wake up. Sometimes they need a slap in the face from God to wake up. Sometimes they need more. Depends on you. One time a guy calls his wife and says, honey, when I honk the horn, come down. She says, oh, Baruch Hashem, you bought a car? He goes, no, I bought a horn. I bought a horn. Sometimes the guy just all he needs is a little horn to do tshuva. Some guy, all he has is a horn. He doesn't have too much. Doesn't have too much to offer. But understand, it's very, very important for you to not show up to Shema with just a little horn. Don't show up with just a little horn.
Come with the car.
Come with the car. The key is to understand that Hashem Yitbarach created the world with midat adin. Hashem Yitbarach created the world with the trait of din, of punishment. And he decided only after, let's add mercy too. Initially, it was punishment. Initially, it was rebuke. You made a sin, he punished you on the spot, like the angels. The angels have free choice. It's just that they get punished right away. Am Yisrael has free choice, and we don't get punished right away. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes 70 years. Sometimes 70 minutes. The point is that the free choice we have is different than theirs in the sense that we don't get punished right away. But initially, it was supposed to be different. Initially, we were supposed to be punished the same way like them. We make a sin, Hashem punishes us. That's the way it was. So, after Hashem saw we're not going to survive, he decided to add the mercy to it as well. But why didn't he just remove the din? Why didn't he just remove the rebuke part of it and just mercy, only mercy? The Zohar Kadosh says the reason why is because if there's no din, man would destroy the world. If there's no din, all we would have is one generation after another being the same one as Noach. Being the same one as the generation of the flood that Hashem had to destroy. Nothing would change. Why? If there's no punishment, no one does tshuva. Sometimes the punishment comes in this world. Shemachem, you have an accident, you have a flat tire, you lost money, health issues, marriage issues, kids issues, this issue, that issue, all these different issues you have in your life, that's Hashem talking to you. Hashem says, I created the world with midat adin, and I didn't remove it completely. I left it there, I just added mercy to it. Why? Because if I didn't punish you, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a lot there, a little again, a little again. Why? If I constantly didn't punish you, you'd be the generation of the flood. You destroy yourself, you destroy the generation, you destroy your kids, you destroy anything. If you didn't have problems in your life, you just destroy yourself. So now, you have to decide. Which type of punishment do you want? Do you want the punishment of waking up extra early because you have to go to tfilat netz? Or do you want the punishment of getting a flat tire because you're going to work instead? Do you want the punishment of sleeping a little less because you're learning Torah at night or you came to shiur Torah? Or do you want the punishment of you don't sleep at all because one of your kids is in the hospital? Do you want the punishment? You want the punishment of actually having to work on your midot and shutting up right when you really want to yell at your wife back. You want to yell at her so bad, but you have to be shut up. Why? Because you know Hashem doesn't like angry people. And it's hard. Sometimes you want to yell at your wife like you're supposed to, like mamash. Like, yell at her like, ooh, if I could yell at you right now, I'd yell at you like you would never forget in your life. Noach would come as a gilgul and say, Kavod, he knows how to yell. He belonged in my generation. But you know you're not allowed to. You know you're not allowed to. You know, it's a kaparat avonah not to yell right now at your wife. You want to yell like that, or Shem Menachem, you want a punishment where you lose your voice and it doesn't come back. Become ilim. Why? Don't yell. Which one do you want? Which one? That's what you have to decide. Every morning you have to decide. Which one do I want? You have to get some type of suffering. You came to this world to suffer for some reason or another. Anyone that thinks that life is not suffering just hasn't lived long enough. Bemet. It doesn't matter. Anyone that thinks that life is all roses hasn't lived long enough. Because if you look at a life of a person, average person, doesn't matter if they're rich, poor, tall, short, black, green, yellow, white, Hebrew, France, doesn't make a difference where they are. You look at their life. Some have toys like planes, some have toys like little toys. Some have cars that are $500,000, some have cars that are 50 cents. They all have the same problems. Side hurts, head hurts, eyes hurt, back hurts. They go to the bathroom too much. They don't go to the bathroom at all. Their wife hates them. The wife loves them. The kids are on drugs. The kids are off drugs. The kids are doctors now. They're lawyers. Now they're suing them. The kids are suing them. Now Shema, people have problems. There's no such thing as a person with no problems. Everyone has problems. You don't have problems, you haven't lived long enough. You're 5 years old probably. And even then you probably have problems. You don't go to the bathroom and so on. The point is, your life is full of problems regardless. Having more money, like people think, oh no, if I had more money, I would do this, I would do this. It wouldn't eliminate your problems, it would just change them. Having a lot more money doesn't mean you have no problems. You just have different problems. Now you have more friends because you have more money, but now you also have more enemies because you have more money. Sometimes they're the same person. So, the problems don't change. Problems don't change. Question is, what do you want? Do you want the problem of waking up extra early? That you chose the problem. You chose the suffering. You slept less to go pray to Hashem. You slept less to go study His Torah. You slept less to go do mitzvot. Or do you want to sleep less and Hashem and have to go to the hospital? Because over there, they don't let you sleep, by the way. Worst sleep in the world is in the hospital. Why? Every hour they wake you up, give you a shot. They give you a shot, for me at least. Every hour they wake you up and they give you a shot, they give you a shot, they give you a shot. They don't let you sleep. I said, all I really need is sleep. You go, oh, you don't sleep in the hospital. You want to sleep, go home. So what problem do you want? Kaparat avonot you're going to get regardless. So that's the thing. So now when you ask yourself the next time before you get angry and you want to give it to her, you want to give it to him, you want to tell him really what you're supposed to tell him, think about it. The Mechalel Shabbat that we used to be, being angry is the same thing. The punishment he gets, same thing. You want the punishment? You want the 25 pages? Want me to show it to you, the 25 pages? So, that's the thing, you have to choose. The more you understand the significance of each one of the mitzvot, each one of the sins, the easier it is to do it. Easier it is to fulfill what Hashem wants. And it's not easy, it's easier. Number one thing you could take home is the Gemara says every time a person speaks, he cuts his life short. Unless it's divrei Torah. Why? There's a certain amount of words that each one of us was given in the world. Certain amount of words. Each time you talk, anything that's not Torah, in essence you're lowering your lifetime. But there's more than one way that you're lowering your lifetime. One way lowering your lifetime is because of a certain amount of words that we're giving, Chazal says. But the other way is because if we're not saying Torah, if we're not speaking Torah, we're usually making sins with our mouth. What are you going to talk about? If you're talking about baseball, basketball, football, stock market, and it's not your job, it's bitul Torah, it's wasting your life, it's not good. If it's not that, and it's not Torah, the only thing that's left is Lashon Hara, saying bad things about other people. So what's the best thing to do? Don't speak. Either say divrei Torah or don't say anything at all. Keep yourself busy. and you'll see that your marriage becomes much better. I'll finish off with a good story. Somebody came to a Rav, a woman came to a Rav, and she told him, Kavod Rav, my husband is unbearable. Unbearable. As soon as he comes home, he complains about something. And he complains about the cooking, he complains about the cleaning, he complains about the kids, he complains about this, he complains about that. He doesn't stop complaining, this guy. Okay, I want a divorce. Judaism, we don't just give divorces like bubble gum. Why? Why you want a divorce? No, he complains. He goes, okay, I have a solution for you. But you have to do what I say. Okay, fine, Kavod Rav. No, that's why I came here. From now on, there's a skula. There's a special merit in Shema for this thing. You have to do it. You have to be very careful. You have to do it every single time. If you miss one time, it ruins the whole thing. Okay, fine, Kavod Rav, fine. How much does it cost? Don't worry about the price. It's free. Free. I love the price. What can I do? You should give me more of these, Kavod Rav. No, it's only one. You should give me only one. Okay, what is it? As soon as your husband comes home, the minute he says something about the kids, about the cooking, about the cleaning, about this, about that, you take a bottle of water immediately. Don't wait a second. And drink the bottle of water, but hold the water in your mouth for 3 minutes. For 3 minutes. Don't hold your breath. You could breathe, no problem. Just hold the water in your mouth for 3 minutes. 3 minutes exactly, not a minute more. Okay, no problem. A month later, the woman comes back for the Rav. This gula is the greatest thing in the world. I've never believed it. Shlom bayit. He loves me. I love him. He bought me flowers. I bought him a car. He bought me this. We love each other. The greatest thing in the world. How did you know, Kavod Rav? How did you know? Where is it in the Zohar? Where is it in the Kabbalah? Where is it? He goes, no, I just knew that you had to be quiet. I knew you had to be quiet. I knew that as soon as he was already upset from the whole day, and all he wanted somebody to just hear his complaints, and you answered him. He said, you just need to be quiet for 3 minutes, and it'll be fine. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. School of mitzvot. School of mitzvot for coming. Seth, yeah, it's not my fault. You guys want 3 hours shiurs. I have 3 hours shiur. Everybody can make it. Any other questions? I finished. Okay, without Hashem, we have shiur on Tuesday.
I got one.
You got a question? His questions go present of everyone. No, go ahead.
So back then, Yosef did have like 80 languages. He knew all the languages.
70 languages, yeah.
80. But why didn't Pharaoh let him on the same step? Like he only had 79. Why didn't he have on the 80th step?
No, it's 70 steps. It was 70 steps, and Paro knew 69 languages, and Yosef knew 70 languages. And the thing is, the reason why
80 languages.
it could be a different midrash that says 80, but I think it's 70 in my midrash that I read. Either way, if Paro would have given him the last step, then they would have made Yosef king. And Paro didn't want to give away his job. Paro wanted to stay king. So that's why he says in the Pasuk, he says, the only thing that's going to override you is me, meaning Paro. Paro says, you could get the job, you could do everything, you have the power, you have the respect, you have the money, but I still stay king, I still stay Paro. And what's the deal? The deal was that Yosef agreed that he's not going to tell everyone the secret, that he knew one more language than him. Because if anyone knew that he knew one more language than him, they would actually make Yosef the Paro. They would make him the king. Yeah. So he kept the secret. He kept the secret. They had a deal. Now in this week's parasha, the story continues between Paro and Yosef. Now Paro made a deal with Yosef that don't tell anyone about the language you know. Yosef says no problem. Now later on in this week's parasha, Yaakov Avinu, Yosef's father, comes back into Yosef's life, and they live together for about 17 years, and everything is great, but eventually Yaakov dies. Now Yosef wants to go bury his father, and Paro is very scared that Yosef is going to go and not come back, because now his brothers are back in the picture, and now he has money. Now this, I did the math, by the way, one time. I did the math on the first day that Yosef became king. The first day he became viceroy, not king. He became number 2 behind Paro. Paro gave him a gift. How much was the gift? How much was the gift? If I remember correctly, my math was $134 million. Nice gift. You're a slave 5 hours ago. Now you have $134 million cash in the bank. It's a good deal. So now it says that's why it says Vayiritzuhu. That's why it says Vayiritzuhu. They hurried him. When Hashem gives you the blessing, it's right away. So anyway, now Paro is scared that Yosef is going to go and not come back. So he has money now. He has fame. He has fortune. He has his brothers. So he says, no, your brothers can go and bury your father, but you can't go. So what's the deal? What happened? So Yosef says to Paro, my father made me swear, made me make a neder. He made me make a neder that I'm gonna bury him. Now if I break that neder, then I'm allowed to break the neder that I made to you to not tell anyone that I know more languages than you. She said, okay, go.
But what would they do if they knew?
If they knew, they would make Yosef king. They would make Yosef king, and Yosef didn't really want to be king. He just wanted to have the position that he had. Ezu chacham, who is wise? Someone who is happy with a share. Ezu ashir, sameach bechilko. Someone who's rich, someone that's happy with a share. Yosef knew that his share was already plenty. He didn't want any more. He didn't want to be king. Beseder, Tuesday night, Bezat Hashem, 9 o'clock, prepare. I have no idea what shiur it's going to be. Everyone keeps asking about this scary shiur, if I'm going to do it or not. I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm ready, but we'll see. Also, it's the last day of, it's Hanukkah, it's not exactly the right time. But I'm sure there's going to be some interesting things to talk about, Bezat Hashem. It's same place, Aventura, and then Wednesday also is at Aventura, but a different place. And Bezat Hashem, bring some more people. Last week, we said each one of you is going to bring 2-3 people. I see none of that worked. Only one of you brought one person. So, Bezat Hashem, next week, it actually works. Next week, bring more people. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Skol mitzvot.